Fruit and fitness. Can you actually be fit, grow muscle, be active, be healthy on a fruit-based diet? I know there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of doubts, but stay until the end so we can know more from Brian Myrabella. Hi, this is Dr. Corassa. I'm a Brazilian nutritionist that has actually saved his life almost 18 years ago by adopting a natural hygiene lifestyle. That is a frugivore-based diet, like a diet based on fruits and vegetables, a raw food diet, and sleep, exercise, sunshine, and paying attention to our biological needs. So this actually saved my life, and I got inspired to share with as most people as I can that health is produced by healthful living, like my old mentor Herbert Shelton used to say. So I welcome everybody to the Frugal Health Podcast, this time with Brian Myrabella. Please, Brian, introduce yourself to us a little bit so we can get the background.
Hi, Dr. Corassa. Good morning from New York City. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate this. And thank you to all your listeners who are going to be tuning in. And congratulations on you healing yourself with raw foods. It's really powerful, and it's really wonderful to hear other people talk about this and spreading the information, because it's really how we're designed, right? I mean, we're not designed to eat cooked food. It's it. There's no debating it. It's just, that's it. It's just common sense. However, humans can adapt to do anything. A human being can smoke for 60 years and they don't die until 60 years later, right? Right. So we're very adaptable. We're very resilient. So I am about to be 55 years old, coming in July. 8 years ago, I was told by a high-level acupuncturist that she listened to my pulse, all three of them. She looked at my tongue and she said, her eyes went like this. Now, I was my first time in acupuncture, and she said to me, she was Eastern European, so her bedside manner she was very direct, which worked for me, but yet still scary. So she said to me, guys like you have a heart attack in your 60s and die. And I was like, what? I've told this story so many times, but gosh, she saved my life. And I've talked to her in the past, and I told her, you saved my life, because as a wrestler, I've been involved in wrestling for 40 years. I taught wrestling for 18 straight years to kids. And in wrestling, we have to have big muscles. So we're taught to eat protein. But we were taught something that was never really true. You don't need it. The only thing I think about protein is that it gives you more calories. It doesn't build muscle, because your body can't digest a protein and then make a protein back. Like, again, that's just common sense. So I got my start as a raw foodist because I went and I delved into the breathing world. So I've been a personal trainer now in New York City for 34 years. And 7 years ago, I met a neurologist who I'm now currently in a year-long program with. And she got me into breathing. And that's when I realized that not only were my organs failing, but my breathing was as bad as it could be. And I've worked with over 700 people in those 7 years, and I've never met anybody who was breathing as poorly as me, which is crazy. But it gave me the experience and the wisdom to help other people, because I know what it's like to overcome debilitating issues. I had a 100% deviated septum. I was incontinent. I had to pee all the time. I couldn't get through the night. I was an insomniac for 25 years. I was irritable. I was emotional. Part of that's my wrestling background, because when you're bent over and you're in an offensive defensive position, you don't go home and then you're like, oh, everything's divine and harmonious, you live in that adrenaline state because you're actively, sympathetically arousing yourself all the time. And what does that do? It drains your cell voltage in your cranial nerves. It taxes your adrenal glands, all because there's no more oxygen left, because you've blown off all your carbon dioxide and you've now destroyed your pressure center, which is your glossopharyngeal nerve, which can't tell the vagus nerve to activate so you can get into that rest and digest state. So it was an insidious amount of little things that led up to that. So when I got certified by Lois 7 years ago as a restorative breathing coach, I started on my breathing journey, and about a year and a half into it, I finally started to feel calm. It took me a long time. And I didn't realize how badly I was feeling until things started to get better. You know, you don't really, I mean, if you're really anxious, you know that. People do know that there's something not right, but they don't know the extent of it, right? Because your doctor doesn't have any, they test your blood pressure, they look at your blood, they listen to your heart, and that's it. They don't look at your iris. They don't look at your tongue. They don't listen to your 3 pulses, right? They don't go that route. So they don't really know anything about health. They're in the medicine care. So as fate would have it, because I started to alkaline my blood through breathing, not through food. Dr. Corassa, I don't believe you that doesn't happen. You cannot alkaline your body through food. It doesn't work like that. Only breathing does that. And that's what even Hilton Hotema talked about in Man's Higher Consciousness. You can clean yourself through the food you eat, but you cannot alkaline your body. Your breath does that. So as I started to feel better, all of a sudden Dr. Sebi presented himself to me on YouTube. And I started watching Dr. Sebi videos. And I was like, what? Oh my God, there's so much information out there. Now, I had already been vegan for about 4 years, but I was a cooked vegan, so I wasn't really vegan, right? People are like, oh, I'm vegan. I'm like, oh, you eat raw? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you're plant-based. You're not vegan, because vegan means raw, right? So after Dr. Sebi, Dr. Morse started to pop up on my YouTube feed. So I started overdosing Dr. Morse, and he always talked about Herbert Shelton. So then I read Herbert Shelton, and then I started to read Professor Errett. And then I said, oh my God, Professor Errett. It's almost like his book, The Mucusless Diet, is like the Bible for health. And I'm not a detoxification specialist, even though I've been in this world for a while. But if you follow the Mucusless Diet healing system, you will get healthy the right way. It's really the best plan I've ever seen. So I just refer people to the book. And so I started to go complete fruitarian after being vegan for 6 years. And my acupuncturist, I had changed acupuncturists. So after 2.5 years with the older one, she said to me, I said, you know, why are my hands, in the wintertime, my hands are frozen, my feet are frozen, I get pins and needles. And she said to me, well, you have Raynaud's disease. And she committed the first sin that really no people should make, is that they tell you what you have. And as a human being who could regenerate, if you're told that you have something, well, now it's in your subconscious. And, you know, you can say, well, you're presenting this issue, but you have the ability to change it, right? Exactly. That's how you need to talk to a brainstem in a loving way, right? Not in a way that makes people feel like, oh, Jesus. But thank God for my wrestling pedigree, because it motivated me even more, just because that's the kind of athlete I am. You have to be very motivated to wrestle. You wrestle 3 times a day, right? So I went to my new acupuncturist, who's here in New York City, in Chinatown. He's 11 years older than me, so he's 66, and he's also a rooster, just like me, year of the rooster. And he's been practicing acupuncture since he's 10 years old, because he grew up in Mao country, and they were poor, and they were not even, his village The nearest hospital was about 5 miles away, and the villagers weren't even allowed in the hospital. So his grandma happened to do acupuncture, and she was healing all the people in the village. So that's how he learned. And then he actually became a doctor. He became a liver surgeon. So when the Cultural Revolution happened, he was one of the first fellows ever in China. And then about 24 years ago, he moved to America because they invited him to come to the best acupuncture school here. And he came and he learned here, and then he gave up medicine. So I go to a doctor who's also a high-level acupuncturist. So when I went to him, this is August will be 6 years ago. So after already doing acupuncture for 2.5 years, I went to him and I told him why I left my previous one. And he said like this, he goes like this, "I agree with her assessment." And I was like, "You mean I haven't gotten any better?" And he said, "Well, if your kidneys are your primordial chi energy, not that they believe any one organ's more important, but the kidneys are the powerhouse. There's 2 of them. That's why, right? They eliminate waste from your body." She said, "If this is what great excellence is, you're down here in like sub-basement level 8. So about 8 months into going to him every single week, because I didn't go every week before, he was just trying to help my inflammation not get any worse. He was trying to help me with my inflammation. He was trying to help me sleep. That was the biggest thing, is I couldn't sleep. So 8 months into it, I found Dr. Morse. And I said, "Oh my God, he's talking about all these people that have healed themselves on fruit by removing acids from their lymphatic system." And I knew about the lymphatic system, which many people don't. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to try this." So I told my acupuncturist, and he said, "I don't think you should do this." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you need protein." I said, "Dr. Meng, I don't eat protein. I guess I never told you that I was vegan." I said, "What I do is I eat marine phytoplankton." I'm sure you've seen me talk about this. So I take marine phytoplankton, which has all the building blocks of life. So it's an organism. It's freeze-dried, but it's a living organism. It has all of the amino acids. That means all the essential amino acids. What are the building blocks of proteins? Amino acids. What keep the amino acids glued to the chain? And that's minerals, right? So I also take ketone seawater. So the only 2 things I put in my body, which are all natural, is I don't take a concoction of minerals. I take seawater, because your plasma is almost identical to seawater. So I take the seawater, I take the phytoplankton, and I've been on this now for, March was 8 years. So in the last 8 years, and it takes 7 years to regrow all the cells in your body, I've been giving myself perfect nutrition without ingesting any protein. And when your body gets all of the right signals, the DNA unravels. It hears the signals, right? The signal goes through the membrane of the cell, the brain of the cell, into the DNA. The DNA is the storehouse of the blueprints of your body. So the DNA unravels, the telomeres let go, and then the information is given to the rest of the body. That's what Dr. Bruce Lipton coined epigenetics. So my body is always receiving the perfect signal. So when my telomeres unravel and my DNA goes to express itself epigenetically, it's expressing the DNA from the most positive parts of the DNA. But if I had been a smoker for 60 years, my DNA would be negatively expressing itself all the time, and that's aging and dehydration and deoxygenation and increased carbon dioxide levels. And you basically just fill up with acids over time, because as you know, there's only one disease, and that's called acidosis. One disease. It's simple. So I started doing this fruit diet. So my transition was, I was eating fruit all day, and I was eating every 30 minutes because I was hungry. I was so hungry that it was crazy. So every 30 minutes I would feel hungry and I would just eat different fruit. But I didn't mix. I only ate mono fruits because that's what Dr. Morse said. So after 1 month, he was listening to my pulse and he said, wow, you're changing rapidly. This diet's working from you and I'm learning from you. And I said, now that's the kind of doctor I want. Somebody who supports my growth, who believes in what I'm doing, not because they intellectually believe it, but because they can see it in the needles, in my pulses. So of course I kept going. And it was literally right before COVID hit Manhattan. I was 11 months into the diet. And he said to me, Brian, I have to tell you, what you've done with your body is nothing short of remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. I didn't know it was possible. He said, and you're getting younger. And that was 4 years ago. So here I am 4 years later, and I'm still predominantly fruit. Do I ever have anything other than raw food? Once in a while. I live with my wife, who's not even vegan. We have two separate lifestyles, which she doesn't mind and neither do I. So once in a while, if I go out to dinner, because I rarely go out, I have to have a cooked vegetable or I'll eat salads. If there's nothing available, I'll eat a vegetable, but I don't want to. I never really want to. So the most I cheat from my fruit diet is salads when I'm a little bit bored of eating nothing but fruit. Because even though it's delicious, it can be a little bit boring, but that's in your head, right? It's not your body. It's my mind emotionally telling me, oh, I would like variation. But it's not what my body's asking for. My body would love to be on fruit only, because when I'm on high fruit, I feel just phenomenal all the time. So I've been able to clean my tissues being on a fruit diet predominantly. And actually, I've only really gone off it the last 8 months when he told me that you're completely healthy now. He said your organs, if you were down here before, you're here now. Your kidneys are here. He said, and now to get from here to here, it's going to take even harder work because it's like running the 100-meter sprint. And you're not going to get 5 seconds faster. You're going to get a tenth of a second faster. So now you got to work harder. As you get cleaner, if you want to get really clean, you got to be even more diligent and ruthless to your purpose. So once in a while I'll have nuts. So my body can only accept 3 nuts, either a macadamia nut, a Brazil nut, or a walnut. Every other nut I've tried, I get bloated. And if you get bloated, you know the food's not good for you. And people say, well, how do I know what food's good for me? Well, eat one food at a time for 24 hours. And if that bloats you, then that food's not good for you. That's an easy way to do it. So predominantly, that's what I do. I have fruit all day long. Once in a while, I have salads. Once in a while, I have nuts. But I grow my muscle on marine phytoplankton. And that's my secret ingredient.
Nice. So that's pretty amazing. The fruit-based diet is like not just healed me as well, but like I don't know, it tastes so much better and it feels so much better. It feels so much more alive. The food is alive. The taste, the color, the textures. Like I'm eating a lot of persimmons right now. They're in season here in Brazil because we're in Alkaline, and I get some local organic persimmons. They're like, the skin is crunchy, but the inside is like melting sugar. It's like, I was tripping yesterday while I was eating with my girlfriend as well. Like I was like, damn, this is so. It's like, even almost 2 decades afterwards, I still get blown away with like, why eating pizza and burgers? Like if this is the real the real deal, the addictive food, but watermelons. Like you cannot get better than that. It's like they're so tasty. I love watermelons. I love watermelons as well.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your diet. Like for example, how do you eat along the day? Like do you only do 2 meals, 3 meals? how you go along eating your fruit, and what the varieties do you include, like at least fruit, vegetables, because I'm a frugivore, right? Like I'm a raw fooder frugivore. I eat primarily fruits and vegetables, but I eat like some seaweed, some nuts and seeds, and some sprouted chickpeas once in a while, or fresh beans.
Right.
You know, I love mushrooms. So tell us more, so people at home can understand a little bit more. How do you prepare? Like, how do you do your diet?
Okay. Well, really, my day starts with doing my brain activations. And I have to mention that because what I do is a series of brain activations to activate the pressure regulator in my brain so I can combust energy properly throughout the day, which means I'll be able to absorb more of the nutrients of the food because I now have more oxygen in my brain. So that's very important in terms of diet. You have to stimulate your brain stem. So the first thing I do is stimulate my brain stem, and then I would say at around 10 a.m. ish, that's when I have marine phytoplankton, a half a teaspoon, with on an empty stomach. Generally, I'm done eating at 7 p.m. and then I start eating it again at around 11 with watermelon. So I'll have watermelon till about 3 o'clock, and I'll eat watermelon I do a lot of working from home, so I eat watermelon every 90 minutes or so. So every about 90 minutes, I have like 3 watermelon meals. And then right now in New York, we have these honey pearl grapes. They're also called muscat grapes. They're the best grapes I've ever had. They're amazing. So from watermelon, I go to grapes, and I never mix foods, even though they say, oh, grapes with grapes, melons with melons, berries with berries. I always just eat mono because it's just more easily to digest that way. So I eat my grapes, and then for dinner, my dinner is I'm kind of boring. It's one of 3 things. Either I eat bananas, because they're a berry, with blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, with coconut yogurt. So we have this amazing coconut yogurt here that literally tastes like yogurt, but it's pure coconut. And they finally figured out how to ferment coconut, so that's amazing. The only thing about that is when you eat those starchy fruits, you stop detoxing. So basically every night I stop detoxing, which I don't mind because I've been in the detox and I don't like it when I don't feel energetic. When detox is too much, that's stress on your body. And I don't believe that stress is good for you. When you feel stressed, then that means you should stop, right? That's why the mucus diet healing system really works, because it allows people to slowly wean off, right? It allows you to eat the steamed vegetables and having some soups and stuff like that. So at night, I'll eat my starchy. That's the only time I'll eat something starchy. So it's either the banana dinner, or I'll make my own guacamole with no onions, just herbs and cucumbers and no tomatoes because you can't mix tomatoes. So I'll make guacamole, and then or I'll have spinach salad. I'll make my own dressing and I'll have a salad with cucumbers. So those are like my 3 dinners that I cycle through. And then sometimes if I can't control myself, I eat some nuts, but I try to stay away from nuts. But otherwise, I haven't cooked food for myself in over 5 years. So the only time I'll allow cooked food in my body is, maybe on Christmas, maybe on Thanksgiving, and once in a blue moon if I have no choice, if I can't eat a salad here in New York City. But other than that, my friends make fun of me too because nobody does what I do. And all my friends are my age, and they don't look they look their age. They haven't changed their diet at all, and it shows. And it's not to put anybody down, it just shows that it's not a natural diet, right? You're aging more rapidly than you should be. So that's what my diet looks like, and I take the marine phytoplankton 2 to 3 times a day, only a half teaspoon, because you don't need a lot, right? You just need the right signal, so then your stem cells know what to do, and they heal the rest of the other cells, and you can get younger. I call it youthing. That's what I call it, youthing. And it's possible. Now, I don't know. I mean, people tell me I do look younger. I don't know about that. But I think that I can definitely stop the aging process and slow it down to the point of barely moving. So, I mean, if I feel this good at 55 and I'm moving this good, I'm also moving better than I've ever moved because I don't have any joint pain anywhere. And I used to be riddled with joint pain. So all those acids were compressing on my nerves and it was causing my joint pain, right? And now I'm working on my brain stem, I'm working on my respiratory system, and I'm working on my digestive and excretory system. And that's, because I'm not a detoxification specialist, because I've not done Dr. Morse's classes, I don't take on clients for that. I'll advise people. I'll say, well, this is what I do. But I feel, you know, I can't give people advice if I'm not certified. So, I mean, I tell them what I do, but I don't tell them what they should do because I'm not an iridologist and I'm not a detoxification specialist. So my main things are teaching people how to move well, how to breathe well, and how to activate their brain stem.
Nice. The last question about diet would be, do you pay attention to chrononutrition, or like you said that you eat frequently, like 3 watermelon meals, some grape, like probably you eat, do you have a eating window during the day, like intermittent fasting, and also the amount, like do you eat a lot of calories? Do you just allow the body to, you know, tune in and tell you how much you should eat?
In the beginning, I did think I needed to eat a lot more, but now I realize I don't. So fruit is hydrophilic and it's soluble fiber. So it actually gives you water and it brings on feelings of satiation faster. And then you feel more satiated longer. So let's say I have my watermelon at 11 o'clock and then, because I go to the gym first, I work out in a fasted state. So I don't eat from 7 p.m. till 11 a.m. So I get all my exercising done on a fasted stomach. And then when I start eating, I don't control my portions. I eat till I go, okay, I feel good. I'm not full. Of course, sometimes I want to keep eating the watermelon, but I say to myself, no, your body's telling you that you're satiated. Don't keep eating. So then you have to have a little willpower because the sugar is delicious and you want to keep going. So I always eat till I'm satiated. And then when I get hungry again, I think it's a real true sense of hunger because watermelon goes through you really quickly. So, and I don't count calories. I have no idea how many calories I eat throughout the day. I don't pay attention to that. I just eat between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. And when I feel like eating, I eat. And I never overeat. But I'll tell you, the times that I've eaten like a vegetable, I can't stop eating, Dr. Corassa. I need to keep eating. And that's when I say to myself, oh, that's because the food I'm eating is insoluble fiber. It's stealing water from my body. It's causing my T cells to come out because my body thinks it's under attack. So it actually sparks the immune system. And then you can keep eating. You don't want to stop. You don't feel full. And that's when I really started to find out that, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to food. And I said, oh my God, I thought food was a necessity. And then I realized it's not. It's that I'm addicted to eating. And that's crazy. It's like, because we are breatharian in nature. We are not designed to eat. Are any of the major organs related to digestion? No. You're a breatharian. In essence, we should not be eating or drinking at all, but we would be light beings. And now, people out there cannot just do that. You will die. Because if you don't get your drug, which is food, your body will go into starvation mode. And Hotema really speaks about the science of that in his book, Man's Higher Consciousness. So in Man's Higher Consciousness, you can read about the science of breatharianism. You can read about the science of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And it's really one of the best books I've ever read. Oh, and I want to tell you this. Have you heard of the book Return to the Brain of Eden?
Yeah, I read it many years ago. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I agree with it completely.
That's another book. So wait, that's another thing. Is about 3 years ago, might even be 4 years ago, I had my blood tested. So I haven't had my blood tested in 4 years. And I did it with Life Extension. They're in Florida. They're very, very well known. But they're big on wheatgrasses. They're big on vegetables. Because you can get people healthy on vegetables. But you're not cleaning their bodies like fruit can, right? And the other thing about fruit is that every single fruit has an enzyme that your body makes. No other food source on the planet does that. So whatever enzymes are in watermelon, and I don't know them off the top of my head, whatever enzymes are in a watermelon, either my pancreas makes that same enzyme, or my liver, or my intestine, but fruit's the only one that actually replenishes the enzymes that you make. And then every time you eat a food that's not fruit, your body has to take its own enzymes to digest the food, and that's when you lose enzymes. So everyone's taking digestive enzymes, but they don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Your body can't take something from a pill and make it bioavailable to you. It doesn't work like that. And that's how I try to live my day.
If I can add, the part you were talking about aging backwards, it's actually, there's a lot of science behind it, because my work's primarily getting the science, like the main scientific articles published in peer-reviewed journals, like high impact factors as we call, and bringing to the public and translating the science. So like lifestyle medicine has been showing several different biochemical, biological mechanisms to reverse aging, like the telomerase, antioxidants, low protein intake, primarily methionine, low heme iron. There's a lot of science, like intermittent fasting. Fasting induces a regeneration of stem cells. There's a lot of different pieces of the puzzles that have been already scientifically proven. So what you're talking about, makes a lot of sense, and we feel it, right? We can feel it in our skin. And for example, I play tennis, and I was obese, sedentary, smoking, drinking, eating a lot of junk food, etc. And I'm 40 now. I do everything way much better at 40 than I was doing at 22. I can run faster, I can think better, I can, better sex, better everything, so it's pretty impressive, It's actually a blessing, and it's sad that the world cannot see what we see it when we want to help people, but they don't allow us to, their brain doesn't allow us to help them see what could help them and help us, and
right. Well, I'm so happy to hear that you're doing the science, and there's a lot of science talking about reversing aging, because that's important. This is what I look like.
I started translating my books. I translated Hygienic Fasting, Nature Surgery. Is available on Amazon. So what I get is like the most recent updated science, and bring to the raw food message, to the raw food world, to the vegan, plant-based, and even to the lifestyle medicine, because there's a lot of, for example, nobody here in Brazil and nobody out of the lifestyle and gerontology community has heard of Walter Longo, for example, research on fasting and showing that actually fasting can induce multiple system regeneration, even turning on genes that can regenerate your beta pancreatic cells. It's like, it's already proven. It's published in Cell, one of the best scientific journals in the world, but nobody hears it. It's absurd. How can, there is the science out there. There is proven. Of course, we need more studies because science is like that. Like it takes a long while to become mainstream and to be accepted. But if there is, already data, why not study more? But for sure, we know that money talks way bigger than anything. So you're going to show something? Sorry.
Yeah, this is what I looked like 12 years ago. You could see my face and my eyes. Look at my eyes. Look how set back they are. That's my liver, right? That's your liver under there. So I'm so much more clearer now. Like I don't even have wrinkles in my face, right? Just barely.
Nice. Yeah. People don't understand, like you're talking about epigenetics, there's microbiome, there's metabolism, there's endocrinology, my testosterone is better nowadays at 40 than it was at 20. Vitamin D, everything in my blood work as well, like, we can prove by the biochemistry, by the looks, by the functionality, like I can play, I love to play tennis, right? I can play tennis 3 hours per day, like under the heavy sun of Rio de Janeiro, and I don't even need to drink water after, I just eat fruit afterwards, and it's like I'm hydrated. I can tell by the pee, by the amount of peeing, by not feeling thirsty. It's amazing. It's like it's so good. It's so good. And I feel that I have lost it 22 years of my life eating cooked food back then, but I didn't know. So sometimes it's good to get sick to be able to have this information, because 99.99% of the planet doesn't have this information, and maybe will not reach it until they die. So
right. Yep. Exactly. I'm glad I went through everything I went through, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have been a broken man. I would have been broken. I would have been on pain pills. I would have needed surgeries. It would have not have been pretty. Yeah. Great for us.
And we will not be light for people that need us, right? Like we will not be taking this information to others. So it's another blessing to be able to help so much. I think, everybody that talks about lifestyle medicine, even outside the raw food community, is doing a good for the world, because it's not just helping people's diet or health, it's helping the planet. Like I have 350 fruit trees on my yard. You can see monkeys. Yeah, I plant all the rare fruits out on the planet. So I can see there's monkeys coming by, there's lizards, there's every kind of animal that can eat fruit, and there's you help the environment in so many ways that we still don't understand, but
Yes.
Do you want to know more about fasting and how to live a healthful life, or even raw vegan recipes? Hygienic Fasting, Nature's Surgery, and the book Natural Delicacies, Cooking Without a Stove, are available on Amazon, and Hygienic Fasting is actually available on print on demand, so you can receive it at your home. But I also have 8 books published, 6 online courses, retreats here in Brazil, and I attend patients online in private sessions. Unfortunately, all the other books and the online courses are still only available in Portuguese. But if you want my help as a nutritionist, or even if you want to come to a retreat in Brazil, just sign up. The contact will be on the website and in the links below. And if you like the content, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications, comment, share the video. If you do all those, you are going to help the channel to grow. If we grow, you grow together, getting more vital, life-changing information, and help yourself and others to make this a more healthy and better planet for all of us. So tell me more about exercise. So you're big on exercise, right?
Well, when we start with exercise, it has to start with breathing, because animals know how to breathe well and move well, and humans don't, because humans have always been taught that they have to push themselves for an hour in the gym, or they have to, if you're a basketball player or a football player, meaning football in your country, they'll play all day, and that might not necessarily be good for your body. right? Because you're breathing through your mouth. Most people are breathing through their mouth and they don't even know it. So the rule number one about exercise is never open your mouth. If you can't keep your mouth closed when you're exercising, then you're not in shape for that level of fitness. So as soon as you have to open your mouth, you either slow down or you stop because it's not good for you. And people want to argue, and I'm like, well, I'm training world-class athletes, like the best athletes in the world, who are now starting to adopt that and starting to realize how powerful it is. And they're like, how come nobody ever taught us about breathing? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't learn it until 7 years ago. And I've been a high-level athlete my whole life, right? So exercise has to start with breathing first. And if we think about if a cheetah is chasing an antelope, the cheetah is going to have a very difficult time catching that antelope because that antelope is fast. So it can't open its mouth to breathe. Because if it opens its mouth to breathe, it's going to be losing oxygen. Because there's a physiological law called the Bohr law. And in science, it's called the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. And it was originated in 1904. And nobody knows about it. So 120 years ago, Dr. Bohr, Niels Bohr, Nobel Prize winner, his father originated this law. And inside your red blood cell, this is your red blood cell, oxygen, everybody knows oxygen is in a red blood cell, but oxygen is bound to the protein hemoglobin. And hemoglobin has a heavy iron atom. That's why they say iron is so important for humans, because iron attracts oxygen to the hemoglobin. However, once the oxygen is glued to the hemoglobin, what mechanism causes the oxygen to separate from hemoglobin? And this is what people don't understand about breathing. They go, well, if I breathe through my nose, then I'm breathing and I'm taking in more oxygen. That's not how it works. You're already fully saturated with oxygen. You don't need to breathe in more. In fact, you need to breathe in less. And it needs to be slower. So as I breathe in less and slower, the way to get this to disassociate from one another is in the presence of carbon dioxide. So if I learn to breathe through my nose, because the nose is going to impose a 50% restriction on the airflow. A horse doesn't even know how to breathe through its mouth. It can't do it. If it does, that's when it's time to put them down. And a lot of farmers know this too. When their animals later in life start to open their mouth, they become dinner. They don't breathe through their mouth unless they're trying to remove heat from their body. So it would be a mechanism designed to remove heat. But if they don't have to do that, then they're not going to open their mouth. So in exercise, you've got to learn to breathe through your nose the whole time you exercise. Otherwise, you might feel great, but it doesn't mean it's not insidiously causing you to remove the precious gas carbon dioxide and stifle oxygen from being released. Now, everybody's had a pulse oximeter on their finger since COVID. And they go, oh, I'm 99% saturated. Yes, I'm oxygenated. That's not how it works. And Wim Hof has badly informed people about this because he says you can oxygenate your body by breathing in more air. And he's wrong. And I don't know, I personally put Instagram stories out there that talk about how wrong he is and how nobody should be doing hyperventilation. So if I'm 99% saturated with oxygen, that means that the oxygen is bound to hemoglobin. That means that 99% of all the oxygen is stuck inside the red blood cell. That's not good. There's a sweet spot of 96% to 98.5. And in that sweet spot, we can play. And if I'm at 96, that means that I have 4% available oxygen coursing through my body. And it's all about getting the right amount of oxygen not more, the right amount, the sweet spot. And when we're in that sweet spot, our pH is also in the sweet spot, which is 7.365, which is neutral, to slightly alkaline, right? Slightly, just a hair, 7.465. So if I'm breathing and my oxygen saturation is 96 to 98.5, then my pH is going to be between 7.365 and 7.465. And that's the kind of studies that people should be doing, because that will prove that the human being's system functions best on those parameters. And then when you breathe out, you need to know what your end tidal CO2 is. So when I exhale, how much carbon dioxide is left in the blood? And medical textbooks tell us that it's 32 to 37 millimeters of mercury pressure. That might be normal, but that's not what's good for humans. We want to be 37 and above. We could be all the way up to 44. Above 44, then we're too much carbon dioxide. Then our body's going to be more acidic. So we don't want to be up, that's COPD, asthma, things like that. So there's also a sweet spot for end tidal CO2, which would be 37 to 44. Really more like 38 to 42. That would be the sweet spot. So with those three parameters, we will have apex health, apical health. And when I'm exercising, as I'm exercising, I don't do linear lifts. So I don't practice compression exercises. I'm a WEC method coach, and I teach rotational training. So when I move. So if I'm going to do, people will sit in the gym and they'll do a rowing machine. And they're like, well, I want to work my back muscles. Well, that's not how you row a boat. When you row a boat, you go and you use your whole back, right? This sticks you in place, right? And then if people are bench pressing, they go like this. Again, there's no rotation in the shoulder joint or the scapula. So if I do bench presses, I lie on a Bosu ball, and I lie over the Bosu ball, and I do one arm at a time, and I rotate my body. So I'm always doing a natural movement while I load my tissues. And then I don't do reps and sets. I do the set as hard as I can, but during that set, I'm making sure that I can control my breathing like the cheetah. And as soon as I can't control my breathing, that's when the set is over. And then how much rest do I take? I don't pay attention to a time period. I pay attention to my breath coming back under recovery, my body feeling ready, because it's not about, am I ready? Can I push myself? Of course I can push myself, but your central nervous system, as soon as you train, your central nervous system goes into a depression. It doesn't go up. Exercise doesn't make the body better. It makes it worse in the moment because it's stress on the body. So if I'm traveling along in homeostasis and I exercise, my body has to go into a depression, and then it goes down. Most people will exercise again, and then they go down, and then they go down, and they create a homeostasis line that keeps getting worse and worse over time. But you want to come along homeostasis, you want to exercise, you want to allow your body to recover, back up to homeostasis, but then you keep going, and then you get to this part, this top curve, which we call supercompensation, and this is when my body's primed to train again. So then I train up here, I go down a little bit, but then I go back up, then I train here, and then I go down a little bit, and then I go back up, but now I'm here as opposed to here. So through the practice of learning to control your breathing while you exercise, like you and I are talking about, I would consider that the analogy would be getting younger while I'm exercising, because I'm learning to be able to control my breathing while I'm exercising, and I don't want to feel exhausted. No animal will train to exhaustion. Only if they don't have water. They will walk. They'll be exhausted and they'll keep walking to find water, but otherwise, they're going to chill. Only humans exhaust themselves. Only humans were taught that if you work harder, it's better for you, and that's not true. Especially if you're not a competitive athlete. If you're not a competitive athlete, you don't stress yourself like that. When I'm done in the gym, I say to myself, okay, I'm just getting to the point where I'm feeling a little bit out of breath. And to me, that's the signal that you're done today. Could I keep going? Yes. But I don't want to overtax my body. I don't want to go into exhaustion. I want that super compensation effect. So when I'm done at the gym, I feel like I have more to give, which means I can come back tomorrow and train again in a very progressive, methodical, and safe way, so I'm not taxing my organs and destroying my blood gases. And that's how I approach exercise, and that's how I teach people. So I teach people from all walks of life, not just professional athletes, but from all walks of life.
Nice. So what kind of exercises? Breathing, I truly believe it. I think I have to learn more. So how do you recommend people to learn breathing? A breathing coach, breathing techniques, breathing books? What do you suggest? Even for myself, I have seen some lectures on breathing, and I think it's truly important. I had terrible issues with breathing and allergies and respiratory issues in my childhood until I started like a frugivore diet. And that's one of the reasons that I even think we should talk about it, is that fruit is so no mucus forming, and we see as it doesn't cause mucus, but also in the scientific literature, it helps with allergies and helps with all the functionality of the lungs. So most people are not aware that they could breathe a lot better and be less constipated on their nose if they ate the right kinds of foods, right?
Right. Well, it's not that fruit helps breathing, because it doesn't. What it does is it removes mucus. So if you're congested, you're going to have to breathe harder. You're going to breathe more shallow. So it's not that the food is disrupting the way I breathe, it's putting a taxation on it. So by not eating a congestive forming diet, you're going to be breathing better than somebody who's eating a congestive diet, but you still need to train your breathing. Because I've had many fruitarians come to me, and when I tested their breathing, it was terrible. And they've been fruitarian for years. So you still have to test your breathing, and that's what I do for people. I have a very affordable program that's only $55 US. And it's called NeuroBreathe. So it's really cheap. And it's a 4-week course. And in this course, I teach you, like I was saying earlier, how to activate your brainstem, how to restore autonomic breathing. Because breathing is in the brainstem. It's not here and here. That's the mechanical version of breathing. Breathing happens as an energetic response in the brainstem. So you have to make sure your brainstem's functioning properly, and then your breathing will restore itself. So in my program, I teach people these brain activation exercises, and I teach them some breathing techniques. And then on June 4th, which is less than 2 weeks from now, I'm launching a program for athletes and recreational exercisers. It's called Breath Strength. So because it's live, I'm charging $199 for it. But after that, it'll also be cheaper. So for the live course, it's $199, but then once I'm done with the live, I'll put it into a digital course and it'll be probably $55. So, but if people want to come and train with me live, they can train with me on June 4th. But otherwise, the way to learn breathing is to overdose on my Instagram channel, which is breath_verse, because I give away as much free information as I can. And if people want to dive deeper into the science, my teacher, Patrick McEwen, from the Oxygen Advantage, of which I'm a master instructor, he's written many books, but he's written 2 great books. One's very scientific, The Oxygen Advantage. Most people can't deal with the science. And then the more layman book that he wrote is The Breathing Cure, which came out about 1.5 years ago. So I would recommend for breathing, The Breathing Cure or Oxygen Advantage, or to study with me, because I also have a private Telegram group. So I coach people through Telegram. Once they join the program, I coach them through Telegram. We do live calls. So we get on the calls, we teach breathing and all that kind of stuff. So you can learn from a master instructor through Zoom. And breathing can be taught through the internet. Whereas training, I really need to be with somebody in person training. It's not that easy to teach on Zoom because you're looking at people backwards. And it's very hard to mirror when you're trying to teach somebody how to move, especially the way I move, because everything is like fluid and functional. But that's my recommendation for learning breathing.
And one last question. What kind of exercises? Do you exercise every day? And what kind of exercises do you do? You talked about like the compound movements and, I wouldn't know how to phrase it, like how to put it in English. I agree completely with you in terms of like moving the body as more natural as possible instead of just like in the gym, how we usually do. And I believe the science of movement should be way more, there's a lot of science coming out, like for example, tennis. I love tennis, right? But like I did a few years ago, we didn't know that it's actually the sport of longevity, because it's not just an aerobic training and just not aerobic training, but also the neurological training that can actually help our health. So people that play tennis can live up to 10 years longer compared, for example, swimming, that it only increases swimming or running only increases 3 years. The scientists are trying to figure out why it improves so much, raises so much the lifespan, but they believe one of the main questions is the neurological training that happens because of the ball and the timing so
that's exactly what.
I mean, there's a lot of behind the science of exercise that we still don't know, and I believe one of the aspects will be way focused on movement. How do you guys talk about like when you do like a monkey on a branch, you are
pull-ups?
Yeah, not but holding on the bars, right? Like so
dead hangs.
Yeah, dead hangs. So you can you can stretch your spine. Like you can actually improve your shoulders. So I think
a dead hang would be a compound movement and something you don't really want to do very often. You want to swing like a monkey, right? That's how you improve your ability, not holding on. You would want to do it by going from bar to bar. That would be how the body should be moving. And I agree that tennis or basketball would be just as good as tennis, because it's hand-eye coordination as well, and it's multi-directional. So we want to do more activities, not gym stuff, because everybody wants muscles. So you want to have more of an animal type of lifestyle, because animals don't train, they play. They literally play with their offspring and their brothers and sisters. And when they're playing, they're jumping and moving all around, and they're doing multi-directional movements. So exercise like that would be better than doing it in the gym. And that's only because, again, people will push themselves too hard in the gym and they'll hold their breath. And that's increasing your blood pressure, increasing vasoconstriction, and none of that is good for you, right? So when you're playing tennis or basketball, you can breathe through your nose and you can be fluid and moving around and having all this spatial awareness and crossing your left hand over your right hand, right? That's why it keeps your brain young, because the only time the brain grows neurons is when you learn movement. Because you could read 10 books in a week. You got smarter, but your brain didn't grow because your brain already knows how to read. So it's only activating the same exact pathways. But if you're standing there and you're dribbling a basketball, you're actually building neurons in your brain, and that's what keeps you young and healthy and spry and fit. So, but breathing has to be at the forefront of it.
Yeah, and also I think the joy of being around being with friends, playing the competition, I think that probably also happens. The socializing part of sports also helps to improve, and even more gym sets. They are full of plastics. People are not aware that you end up breathing plastic, you end up touching plastic, and that scientifically goes to your bloodstream. The phthalates, the BPA, and all the other dioxins end up in your, and you're not getting the sunshine, you're not getting the fresh air, so. Yeah, for sure. I prefer, although I go to gyms and I lift, I prefer natural settings and more natural sports and more natural movements. I love tennis. If I could, I would play every day. But I still do calisthenics and surf and weightlifting. So
well, good. Again, that's multi variations.
Yeah.
So your brain will be more active when you do more variations of movements as well. So that's great that you do all that stuff.
Yeah. I love sports, but we have to work, right? So we have to divide our times. If I could, I would play tennis professionally because I love it so much. But one last question, Brian. What would you suggest for people? How do you motivate people, not just for diet, for lifestyle in general, but for sure? How do you suggest people would change their lifestyle, but also change their diets to a more raw food, fruit-based, plant-based diets?
By transitioning slowly. I hate the word baby steps, but it is kind of true because I didn't transition like that. It took me time. I had to wean myself off meat 13 years ago. So for the first year of me trying to get off meat, it was, I'd go 2 weeks and then I would have some meat. Then I might go 3 weeks, then 6 weeks. And then little by little, the more I transitioned out of it, the less I wanted it because those bacteria live in your gut. So then you start to kill off all the bacteria that decompose those types of foods. So you have to be gentle with yourself. You do have to have a measure of willpower, but you have to have a plan. It's very important that you have a plan and that you track everything. Because if you just go by, okay, I'm going to start today, and then you're like, 2 days later I ate meat, and then maybe 2 days later I ate meat, and then a day later, you don't even realize it. So you have to write it down, and you have to look at it, because then you could say, oh man, I had meat 2 days ago, I can't do this again. Right? You really have to be gentle with yourself. And you have to have a plan. And the mucusless diet healing system, to me, is the best plan out there. And it's a very small book. So I would say everybody should read the mucusless diet healing system because I've had fighters who needed to lose 40 pounds and they've lost 40 pounds using that diet and able to eat some cooked food and introduce fruits into their diet. So there's a measure of willpower too. It's not easy. It's hard to say that I have a magic solution. It's that, number one, you have to track your stuff. If you're not tracking, then you don't have a way of measuring your progress. You can't just do it by feeling. You have to track what you're eating because it holds you accountable. So I think when you're transitioning, accountability is your incentive. You hold yourself accountable by putting it all down on paper so you can see what you're putting in your body. Because otherwise people don't remember and they don't realize it. They'll just go back to living off the programs that they were already doing. Because you'll revert pretty easily if you don't pay attention and hold yourself accountable. And I think accountability is my best advice, is you have to write it down and you have to have a concrete plan. And it's not a difficult plan. The mucocystic healing system is very, very easy. My plan is I eat fruit all day, mono, and then at night, if I want, I have the starchier fruits, which would be avocados or coconuts or bananas. And that at night, that's when I feel more satiated. I feel like I'm less in the detox. And that's basically how I live my life. And I'm still transitioning, Dr. Corassa, because I'm not 100% fruit. So I consider myself, even now, 5 years into it, still transitioning, because my last meal of the day is when I have the starchier fruits. But ideally, if you wanted to live as high as possible, you wouldn't eat those fruits either, right? Because you would be in constant detox. And then you'd be more on your way to breatharianism, so, which I have felt in the past. I've done a 7-day water fast living on marine phytoplankton, and I didn't feel the need to eat at all. After the 7th day, I didn't feel hungry at all because I was not fully fasted. I was 60 calories per half teaspoon of this, so I was on a solid food vacation, but I allowed my brain to receive the nutrients, specifically my hypothalamus gland. So that is my also secret. And you can get phytoplankton from a place called Plankton Holland, which is cheap. This is the more expensive version from Ascended Health because they do scalar wave technology. So my secret ingredient is the phytoplankton because it'll help you to control your cravings immediately because you're getting the perfect food in your body, and your cravings will be much, much less if you have that as your base.
Nice. So, Brian, how can people find you, reach you, contact you?
Thank you for asking. So my website is quantumfitness.org. So quantum meaning energy, because I'm all about breathing, which is energy, and fruits, which is high energy. So it's quantumfitness.org, or my Instagram channel is breath_verse, like universe. So it's breath_VERSE. And anybody can message me on Instagram or send me an email through Quantum Fitness. And that's how I teach people. And like I said, my NeuroBreathe course is available on my Linktree. It's a very, very modest $55. And I'm launching this live course. So if you want to train with me live, in less than 2 weeks, I'll be holding a live course, which is available through Zoom. And thank you for bringing me on your podcast. Thank you for allowing me to speak to your listeners. I appreciate you and everybody out there, because I know that everybody who's listening is feeling exactly how you and I are feeling. They're already feeling better, or they're here because they want to feel better. And this is the place to be, because we're sharing information that you don't get very many places.
It was a pleasure. Hope to meet you one day. Last time I was in New York was for Fruitstock Festival 2019 or 2018.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was 2019. It was pretty good. I taught some culinary recipes over there. Although I prefer, I love lecturing about the science. You know, like I taught a little bit over there, and I hope to be back again maybe next year's Fruitstock Festival, or hope to meet you one day. We can practice and eat some fruit together. It was a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Did you like the podcast? What other subjects would you want to view here? Do you want to know more? Please comment below. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to help our work and help yourself, 2 of my 10 books are already translated and published in English on Amazon. And Hygienic Fasting Nature Surgery is actually available print on demand also. And Natural Delicacies Cooking Without a Stove, it's on Kindle. So if you want my help, the link below for the website and for the WhatsApp contact, you can get a consultation, retreats, online courses, and read all the books. It's life-changing information for the most updated lifestyle information out there in the planet. Hope I can help, and don't forget to click these videos to know more.